Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever wondered why some memories stick with you forever while others just fade away, even if they happened on the same day? Do we remember events because of when they happened, or because of why they were important to us? It turns out your brain might be playing a secret game of sorting your life experiences. And scientists are finally figuring out how it works. We usually think of our lives as a long movie where one scene flows into the next. But your brain does not just record everything like a camera. It breaks your day into little chunks, like chapters in a book. This is what researchers call event segmentation. If you are sitting in a meeting and then you stand up to go get coffee, your brain basically hits a mental stop button and starts a new chapter. This process usually helps us keep things tidy, but it also creates a wall. Whatever happened in the meeting feels separated from whatever happens at the cafe, mostly because of that little break in time. But what happens when something emotional jumps into the mix? A group of researchers wanted to see if intense emotions can break down those walls. They set up an experiment with nearly 300 people. The participants were shown tons of images of animals and tools while they went through 3 different phases. First, they looked at these images for a while. Then, they entered a conditioning phase where seeing images from one category meant they might get a light. Harmless electric shock. Finally, they looked at a third set of images after the shock phase was over. The goal was to see if the threat of that shock made them remember the images differently than they would have if everything had been totally boring and safe. At first glance, the data looked a bit messy. When the researchers averaged everyone together, there was no massive, clear rule that emotion made everyone remember everything perfectly across time. It looked like the threat of a shock only helped people remember the specific images they saw during the shock phase itself. But the researchers were smart. They realized that maybe not everyone handles their memories in the same way, behind the scenes. The math revealed that 2 different groups of people were actually doing 2 totally different things with their brains. The first group was very disciplined about time. They organized their memories by the clock. For these people, the emotional event was like a small island in time. They remembered the scary stuff that happened during the shock phase. But the images they saw before or after that time did not get any special boost. It was as if their brain said, "That was stressful, but it stayed right there, and I am moving on." Everything stayed in its own neat little box. The second group did something completely different. Their brains decided that the emotional event was the main event. For these folks, the shock was so important that it acted like a magnet, pulling in and strengthening memories of related things they saw, even after the scary part was over. It was like their brain decided that because the shock was dangerous, they needed to pay extra attention to anything in that category for a while. Just in case. This is a huge deal because it shows that human memory is not a one-size-fits-all system. Depending on how your brain is wired, you might be a chronological organizer, someone who keeps life in tidy phases, or you might be a relevance organizer, someone whose brain prioritizes what matters most for survival. If you are the second type, your brain is constantly scanning for meaning to help you navigate safety. Now, we have to keep in mind that this study did not look at every single type of memory. It was just a snapshot in time using a lab experiment. We do not know for sure if these 2 types of thinkers stayed the same way for their entire lives, or if they might change depending on the situation. Also, they could not prove that being in one group makes you better or worse off in the real world. It just shows that we have different styles of mental filing looking forward. It would be fascinating to see if we can train our brains to be one way or the other. Imagine if you could teach your brain to be a better relevance organizer when you are studying for a difficult exam, or a better chronological organizer when you are trying to let go of a stressful workday and just relax. This research opens the door to understanding how we can be more in control of what sticks in our minds. It is pretty amazing to think that while we all walk through the same world, our brains are painting the picture in completely different ways. I would love to hear which type you think you are. Do you keep your memories in neat timestamp boxes, or does your brain prioritize what feels meaningful? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip into the lab of the mind, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into how we think. Thanks for joining me at the Mind Lab, and I will see you in the next one.